For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber, and today I'm joined by Lieutenant Colonel Mike Pierce, candidate in Illinois, and I keep forgetting what congressional district you're in. How are you doing this morning, Mike? And sorry, I think your mic is muted. But yeah, Mike's, again, we've been trying to highlight some of candidates, especially, and you're going to see more of this in the lead up to primaries in different states. I want to highlight people that are actually out there, fighting for America First values, people that aren't these just mealy-mouthed rhinos we're dealing with in so many states right now that kind of hold us back. So I really want to be able to highlight the fighters. And sorry, Mike's mic was working perfectly 2-3 minutes ago before we went live. Is it back on? Okay, let me see. I am not getting anything here on my end. Let me make sure it's not just something wrong with this scene. Well, I'm not sure what happened there. It was working fine 30 seconds ago. But yeah, sorry, I've got no audio coming through now. But Mike's running in Illinois, and again, one of the problems that I have had on here and talked about repeatedly is candidates that, especially in blue or purple states that, run to the middle. And, like we've discussed before, that's not what the base wants. The base wants people that are going to fight for American values. There's this sort of backwards idea among a lot of like political strategists and, RNC chairs at the local level, especially in blue states, that, our side of the aisle still wants, Mike, I don't know if you can maybe try to rejoin real quick. I'm not sure what the issue is because I've got no sound from you still. All right, we'll bring him back in here in a second. Hopefully that corrects the problem. But, there's this idea among strategists that for whatever reason, our voting base wants people that'll reach across the aisle and work with the Democrats. Well, we see what good that's done. Whereas right now, in the first subject we're going to get into here again, as soon as we get Mike's audio issue sorted out, is we want people that will hold the line and fight. We're seeing, why that works right now with this government shutdown and the budget issue. The longer we force these Democrats to squirm, the better our chances are. All right, I'm going to get Mike added back in here real quick. Hopefully we've got the sound issue sorted now. Yep, I hear something in the background, so I think we'll be okay here in a second. All right, give me just a second to get you added back in here. Sorry, guys, this show is self-produced, so give me a moment here. All right, Mike, if you could give our audience a rundown on who you are, why you're running, and then we're going to jump into our first topic here.
Sure. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, it looks like everything's good. I'm going to tweak your volume a little bit, but everything else looks fine.
Perfect. Well, good morning, Mike, and thanks for having me on the show. I'm a retired Army, grew up in Illinois and the 11th District, as a matter of fact. Went to college at North Central College. Then I went in, worked about 20 years with the Army, and after that, 12 years as a contractor, and total of 25 years overseas, actually, working in Germany and countries around there. Deployed to Iraq. Um, I'm a dad. I got a PhD in organizational leadership. Wrote a book on emergent leadership during crisis, which is about the Battle of D-Day in Normandy. And came back, and I saw a lot of changes going on in the area, significantly, because it was kind of strange seeing so many changes in the states where we've been out there trying to uphold the American way, and we get back and we see, wow, what's going on? So I'm just running because I want to, help people achieve the American dream. I'm here for our kids, and I'm here for our country, and help it get back to where it's stumbled a few places, and help us maintain the course where we've done it right. America's a great place, and I want to, be a part of that and continue giving back to my country because it's been so good to me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've liked about you, as we've spoken a few times now in the lead up. Like recently, you're on another one of our programs here on Ex American News, Aisha Speaks Truth, and that you're somebody that comes from a background of civil service. You served your country essentially your whole life, and even your reason for getting into this now isn't furthering your career or more notoriety or anything else. It's because you see a problem, it isn't being addressed, and you want to take care of it. You're tired of what you see going on in Illinois, like I'm sure a lot of people are there. And you have the common sense and the will to fight back. Like I was telling the audience while we were kind of getting your audio thing sorted out there, was the base is sick and tired of this idea of we should always be reaching across the aisle to the Democrats, that we need to meet them in the middle. Our side of the aisle is tired of that. We want fighters that are going to put America first, that are going to stand against a lot of this nonsense from transing the kids and the LGBTQ MS-13 agenda we have in our schools. We're tired of the sanctuary state policies that are destroying Chicago right now. We're sick and tired of the open border. And of the abuses of power coming from the American left. And I want to go ahead and we'll jump into our first major topic here, because obviously it's what everybody's discussing now, is this government shutdown. So I'm going to pull a couple headlines here. Dems want Medicaid for millions of Biden-era illegals, but use sneaky wordplay to pretend they don't. But the cat's out of the bag. Ro Khanna says the quiet part out loud. Admits Democrats want your tax dollars to fund illegal aliens. I mean, and this is the part that's so frustrating with this is, we discussed this over and over. I think it's one of the core problems our country has right now is we have such a dishonest mainstream media that instead of just telling the truth or holding them to account, and I will give them this, there are a few, even CNN actually did force them to admit this a few times yesterday. But I mean, I feel like at this point it's so blatantly obvious, but normally they're out there carrying the water. They help with the cover up. Even though they're using basically word games to pretend they're not giving health care to illegal aliens, everybody knows what it is. Now, we can disagree on the amount because I guess it's $350 billion in total healthcare spending that they're demanding. Roughly $200 million of that is just for illegal aliens. And that's not getting into the Obamacare bailout either, which is also highly suspicious. It's not getting nearly as much attention, but that's another $50 billion. Or sorry, 80. Is it 50 or 80? Sorry, I'm confusing myself. It's either 50 or $80 billion. Somebody noticed that Obamacare, there's about 20 million U.S. citizens on it right now. Well, 12 million of them had no claims in 2024. That's a little weird. We're talking no doctor's visits, no prescription drugs, no anything. So did we just find another money laundering scam here? But I think the real core problem is, once again, the left wanting to put Americans last and lift up illegal aliens, support them, while ignoring the problems here at home.
It's just so blatant. And the wordplay that they've used. And I mean, I was just listening to the talking last night, and it said, if this isn't passed, that was Senator Sanders is saying, if this doesn't pass, 15 million people in America will be off the healthcare. Hey, Looney, hey, here's a clue for you, buddy. Those are not Americans. And for every one of those Americans that you talk about that are struggling to get by, you're making 2 or 3 of them pay for each one of these illegal aliens who are on there. Thus, you're raising up their costs. So if we're concerned about cost for people, how about you lower the cost by getting the extra people off of the insurance policies that aren't getting paid into. So you want to talk about healthcare costs? How about that for a starter?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. And then again, this is part of the problem was we can't have an honest conversation about it. That, you know, I don't understand how the left can continue to pick the wrong side of so many 70-30, 80-20, and 90-10 issues, and just be so out of touch with the rest of America. You know, there's a lot of people struggling right now. There aren't 2 or 3 Americans that can afford to take a chunk of their paycheck and give it to someone that invaded our country right now. Most Americans are coming to that conclusion. And I'm not just talking about native born. Most of the lawful immigrants I know feel the same way. They're sick and tired of it. They have the same struggle the rest of us have. This whole intersectionality idea isn't flying anymore. You know, people that legally, lawfully immigrated here from Iran, Brazil, Colombia, wherever else, Canada, they all went through the same struggle. They know how hard and difficult it was for them to obtain citizenship. Most of them understand this is a privilege, not a right. And the vast majority of them are the same thing. They're paying taxes just like you and me, and they are sick and tired of watching their money get wasted on this thing. And the fact that the left can't even be honest about it, and that this is the hill they've chose to die on, just shows how, you know, the unbelievable level of disconnect that the American left has with the American people right now.
Yeah, there's a disproportionately affecting the people who are struggling and trying to get by and trying to follow the right path. And as far as trying to tack towards the middle and work with people, you know, that was flying maybe up until a few years ago. But once you open up the floodgates and allow 20, 30 million people in here to get on services as well as come in illegally and bring all of the other problems in there, then, you know, people who are the most moderate people are going to wake up and say, what is going on? I mean, this affects every one of us. And, you know, people, bottom line is it comes between everybody and for their opportunity and their children's opportunity to get to the American dream, which is what I'm all trying to help and restore. And that's why I continue to serve, because we need to be able to give everybody from the next generation the same opportunities that we had when we were growing up.
Agreed. I think that's what most people want, is they want to have the ability to pass on a better country than they were left from the previous generation. It should always be an improvement as America and the American dream roll forward. Now, I want to read I always say tweet, Truth Social post from President Trump from earlier today. I have a meeting today with Russ Voigt. He of Project 2025 fame, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. And obviously this is a very trolly tweet, but he also, you know, again, I cannot believe they fell into this trap. They chose this hill to die on, and now because we are in a government shutdown, and essentially the executive branch has the ability to determine what is and isn't essential, where services need to be cut, where they don't. This is now an opportunity to go out and clean out a lot more of this waste, fraud, and abuse, the unnecessary government employees. I mean, I've heard they might be eliminating as much as 750,000 bureaucrats during this shutdown if it's allowed to go through Friday. I guess they're giving them a few days to try to come to the table with a more reasonable negotiation. But I do like to, they've got to hit them in the face with the Project 2025, and that, you know, we're hearing 100,000 employees are going to resign if this goes on through Tuesday. Hopefully it does. But I mean, this is a great opportunity to clean up a mess, largely, you know, the Uniparty created.
Well, remember,
you know,
too, that a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can say a lot of that is from those extra funds that came out during COVID, and this is simply an adjustment of getting things quote back to normal. You know, that flattened the curve strategy that lasted for 4.5 years. You know, now they're realizing, okay, we bumped things up because there's a national crisis. That's been over. It's time to allow things to get back to normalcy.
Agreed.
Train's over.
Yeah, something else interesting. I heard about this last night. I hadn't had a chance to go back and look at this, but in addition to so when Biden was in office, we kept getting these jobs reports that they would then revise down a few weeks later once they generated the headlines they want. That those were mostly done by manipulating federal job numbers. However, this also, part of what Trump wants to get rid of right now was this massive expansion in federal government jobs. And there's another point they brought up was. And this has been brought up since then, but you had more non-U.S. citizens counted in the jobs numbers under Biden to kind of keep things at zero or keep the losses down to a minimum. But these were mostly foreign nationals getting new employment in the U.S. and not U.S. citizens. Since then, that trend's reversed. But I think this has kind of been the other effect of this is amplifying that, so more and more people are realizing this hoax that was perpetrated on them during the previous 4 years.
I mean, it was a net non-growth of Americans in American jobs during that administration, and they were going along, and they were, they're pumping the numbers, they're kind of putting on a little facade, and now that that house of cards, if you will, is falling out, and people are realizing it, and they're seeing it, and they're seeing now it's just starting to be seen, the level of of, I'm not gonna say conspiracy, but certainly the level of in which they were trying to hide things and prevent people from seeing what was really going on while they were experiencing it. And people are saying this, they're experiencing it, but then they're told something completely different. And, at a
Yes.
certain point, Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, you can fool all the people some of the time, but can't fool all the people all the time. And now we're at that point. All the people are realizing what the world is going on. So thank God for that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, the only people that don't understand the truth and reality right now are the blue-haired moonbats with their thumbs shoved in their ears. Everybody else is starting to get what's this hoax that's been perpetrated on all of us for well over a decade now. One last aspect of this I want to bring up, I think it's hilarious. So Hakeem Jeffries humiliated, ends broadcast after dozens tune in to his government shutdown live stream. This guy couldn't even crack triple digits across not just the entire country, the entire world. And you can bet your bottom dollar the vast majority of people that did tune in for his little cry fest were probably journalists that wanted to cover it. So, I mean, the American people are just totally tuned out. They're not buying this anymore, especially now that, like I said earlier, even CNN's kind of exposed this. They're actually asking questions about this. They're saying, well, yeah, you're using clever word games. You're saying, oh, well, these are paroled individuals. You're not calling them illegal aliens in this legislation because they misused the parole law to allow entry for millions of people. But when even CNN is turning on them, like their messaging just isn't working, I think this just illustrates what a failure it's been.
It's hilarious. First of all, he reminds me, he's like an Obama wannabe, Obama light. He should develop his own mannerisms. Isn't he from the East Coast? And I'm not hearing. I mean, it sounds like he's coming from the Midwest, and that just the same meter and everything. And the depth of what he's trying to talk about, he's trying to kind of pump up everybody, and people can see right through it. I mean, if it wasn't that he had his own echo chamber and painted gallery with him, then he wouldn't have anybody listening to him. So you're right; it's that echo chamber of the press that's listening to him, and he's got the howdy doody peanut gallery sitting behind him, egging him on as he's trying to like this, and it's just not going to work. He's like a Ricky Bobby. I'm not really sure what to do with my hands. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I've been calling him a dollar store Obama or wish.com Obama. And when we got Gavin Newsom out in California, I like calling him Timu Trump. But I want to go ahead and jump to our next topic, because something we've covered very consistently on here is obviously the open borders, the sanctuary state status, and the illegal the invasion of Chicago and of Illinois. The fact that you guys are a sanctuary state and how it's you just destroyed Chicago, basically, especially the southwest side. But recently, let me let me go ahead and pull this up here real quick. Recently, we're finally seeing ICE start to do something there, start doing real roundups. And recently, we saw War Within. ICE agents descend from helicopters to nab suspected TDA gangsters in Chicago apartment. We're also seeing Antifa and these violent protests out in front of ICE facilities. There have been a few arrests there, but I wanted to get your thoughts on exactly what you've witnessed in Chicago and throughout Illinois, and Pritzker's pathetic stand against President Trump, and something that's clearly the people of Illinois and America want, and that's the expulsion of these invaders.
Well, the crime problem has been consistent, across the board. Chicago has, for months. I mean, the numbers are disproportionately much higher in Chicago than it is above any of our other nation's great cities. Even though they have, some of them have larger populations, but the shootings particular, I mean, it just shows what's been going on. There have been multiple times where there's been lawlessness going on. As far as people protesting, people being downtown, or the ICE arriving, number one, I mean, it must have been quite exciting to have an air assault, people coming down a rappelling rope to show up in their neighborhood to go into the complex. But they had taken over this complex, and so they needed to do something in a way to make sure that people weren't just going to simply flee. The problem with gangs has been so bad that even gangs in Chicago have been trying to get rid of these other guys because they've come in. They've been allowed to just simply, and I think Sheriff Mendrick, who's one of our candidates for governor, was pointing out that they arrest them and then these people can just walk scot-free because of basically glitches in the laws and openings. The sanctuary state has just been set up so that they can pump the numbers of Chicago. I use that word because it's true. It's not real life. These numbers are being increased so that they can get more federal money and they can maintain stature-wise in terms of their on the stage. And so what they're trying to do is keep our numbers up, but the actual American, the citizens, especially the citizens who are actual legal refugees and legal people who've come here for various reasons and who are struggling to work their way up, they're disproportionately affected. It goes not only in Chicago, it's in some of our smaller cities. We've got Elgin, we've got Aurora, where there's challenges that they're facing. So TDA has been all over, and I'm glad to see the ICE is out there doing what they need to do because it's hurt the city, it's hurt the state. Chicago affects the state significantly.
Yeah, agreed. And I guess the other thing that I don't understand there is why the local law enforcement is protecting Antifa and a lot of these other they call themselves protesters. So let's be real. I mean, they're really terrorists in the street. It might not necessarily be a riot every single night at these ICE facilities, but let's make no mistake. This is terrorism. When you want to go out there and try to be a human traffic cone to prevent ICE from going out and doing their job and rounding these people up, or again, assaulting ICE officers. We just had the recent shooting in Texas. We've had numerous assaults all over the country. What is it going to take to get Chicago Police Department to actually back up, enforce the law? I mean, you don't even have to say that it would be nice if they would actually assist federal law enforcement. That would make things easier and safer for everyone. Because, the downside to ICE having to go in and kick in somebody's door at an apartment complex and round these people up is there's a potential for a shooting to happen, especially with Tren de la Agua. Whereas...
they don't want to. The police in Chicago are good people. I mean, one of my roommates from college just retired. He was on the SWAT team. Those people are hard workers and they're doing really tough work because, the odds are stacked against them. And then you got these yahoos out there calling them names when they're trying to do their jobs. And on top of it, you've got them demonstrating, and they're also unable to provide the ICE and the others with the kind of support that they would like to give. And I'm sure that there's very frustrating for them. That's a policy thing that's coming out of the mayor's office, and their hands have been tied. And that's also the governor has tied the hands of the others. So what we need to be able to do is to free up those resources. And I think that's a good thing that we've got people coming in here. Chicago has got to get that crime rate down. Every weekend you hear the number of double-digit shootings every weekend. There's violence, and that can't continue. And as a result, Illinois has been losing people because one of our largest one of the people in the state went down to Florida, just gave up because it was unsafe for his employees. He took himself, city of the capital, took his capital, took his money, moved to Florida. Illinois
Yeah.
loses $9 billion a year of lost tax revenue because of companies that have left. Think about that. $9 billion a year is how much they lose because of the policies that they've enacted of the last several years. That's not over the time. That's per year.
I mean, that's incredible, and it's an incredible amount of damage to do to the state because it can't just be instantly recovered. Like you said, like these are businesses that took time to build up. I mean, $9 billion in tax revenue is no joke. And this is at a time where they've got a budget shortfall because of all the services they're continuing to offer to these invaders, from healthcare and everything else. In California, they had to take out a multi-billion-dollar loan just to cover all the health benefits they wanted to continue. Sorry, guys, I don't know what the heck is going on with my camera. I think there's a wire or something going out at the moment. I got to get this sorted. Lost my train of thought there. But yeah, it just seems like such a simple, easy, obvious problem to solve. But I think this is one of the things that we're really seeing. That I don't know that the American people are kind of understanding the problem yet, but I think they're starting to understand that, you and I know that we live in a constitutional republic, whereas a lot of people on the left view this as a multicultural democracy. And when they see ICE going in and grabbing these illegal aliens, including the violent criminals, the sexual predators, everyone else, they think it's like the Gestapo coming in, taking these citizens of their multicultural democracy away, that they just have this totally warped worldview. And we're seeing the end result of that right now.
I think warped view is correct because as a constitutional democracy, what that means, constitutional republic rather, what that means is that there people have representative government. And so we agreed, some 50 years ago or so, that we're going to have our government in this kind of way where people, it was way even before we started. You have representatives got together and then they decided, hey, we're going to forge our own way. And when people today want it to be mob rule, that's what their idea is. And the founders knew that mob rule wasn't going to work because if you even look in how the Constitution is written, the emotions of people are inflamed. We don't want that. It's, people have to have some sort of a balance act to keep things steady. And what they've been doing in these cities is they've actually been making it work for the people who've been struggling with poverty. Chicago had a lot of poverty already. God knows it did not need hundreds of thousands more new people coming in and making it even more difficult because they're not giving more money to the people who've been there already struggling. The students, are still having to pay student loans. The people who are unemployed, who've been in chronic unemployment and can't find good jobs because the jobs have left the state are still unemployed. All they've done is add to it. And they've so on the one hand, they're bringing in people who they say don't meet a certain standard in terms of, Americans can't find jobs, but while the other people are coming in to take those jobs. So they make this entire narrative, and it's all a lie basically. And let me talk about personally. Okay, I have a brother who's disabled. He's not eligible to get more money for food because he gets a certain amount of Social Security, but that's just subsistence level. They've kept our seniors, they've kept our people on Social Security, and they kept our veterans who are disabled at a subsistence level. The state spent 1/10, that's $120 million on veterans last year, and 1.2 billion with a B on illegal immigrants alone. Now think about that. They're taking 10 times the resources applied to the illegal immigrants as being applied toward helping our veterans. I mean, that's just kind of crazy, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just at the state level too. That's not count. I don't think that includes all the federal funds and other things that were, laundered through NGOs and various other sources that were dispersed to illegal aliens. So, I mean, 10 to 1 is bad enough, but I bet the number is probably well over 25 to 1 when it was all said and done. I mean, we know some like Catholic Social Services and others last year were given, incredible amounts of money to essentially be Uber for illegal aliens, for the housing, and for everything else. And those were just federal dollars. We do need to take a quick break here from our sponsors. When we get back, I kind of want to focus on tax policy and the economy over there in Illinois. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more. maybe that's going to give me problems too. All right, stay with us, guys. We'll be right back with more.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With a Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to jace.com now and get your own Jace case.
Guys, thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the great programs here on X America News is by supporting our sponsors. So I do want to encourage you guys to go to jace.com or jacemedical.com. Pick up a Jace case for yourself and for your family. This isn't a Band-Aid kit or a boo-boo box. This contains antibiotics, non-narcotic pain relievers, steroids, and other prescription medication that could be necessary or even life-saving during the time of an emergency. Whether that just means the help isn't on the way because of a natural disaster, economic collapse, an invasion. Maybe China cuts off our drug supply. And again, we still don't have resources here back online to start producing a lot of these medications here at home. So again, this is one of those things, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Now they can rotate out what is in this Jace case and the other products they offer. If there's a drug in there that you or a family member is allergic to or is ineffective for you. They also have other products available, such as IFAKs, individual first aid kits for blowout kits, I guess more common terminology. And then they have specialized kits for parasite cleanses and other things. You can also order supplies of it. If you're on a medication you have to take daily and are concerned about that supply getting cut off, blood thinners or insulin, whatever else. They have shelf-stable medication you can get and order anywhere from a 1 month to a 1 year supply. If you call in, speak with one of their physicians, they'll get you taken care of. And if you use code INSURRECTION at jace.com or jacemedical.com, you'll get an additional discount and be helping us here on this program and with all the programs here on X American News. All right. Well, I really want to get into your thoughts on tax policy and the economy there in Illinois, because as everybody knows, with a lot of these unfortunately blue states, the taxes are ridiculous, and part of that is because they tend to offer all these extra services, all these things, but basically at the end of the day, they're reaching into every citizen's wallet and picking their pocket in order to fund programs that probably most of the constituents, if they knew what was going on with their money, would not be in favor of.
Yeah, I think that what's been going on has been hilarious. They've basically developed a self-licking ice cream mechanism where they take people who want to be, they're molding them while they're in college to go out and do good works. And what they use these people as part of their, they're kind of their patronage group of people who also are their political operatives. And so They're getting paid through this money. Then they sluice this money through to provide quasi services for people. They bring them in, they get them, because just enough to get them to get by, as the people at the senior levels at the administration can profit from that, whether they're the people who are at the higher levels of the organizations or the people who are on the ground. And they have a lot of the basket weaver kind of liberal degrees. And I think if you're going to do that, then hey, here's a really crazy idea. How about you have those people work on helping Americans? You want to help people get money, or you want to get food to people. You want to then take it to the American people, not people, and use it as a slushing machine so that you can fund a non-government organization, adding an extra layer of complexity, and also, by the way, taking resources out of the actual systems that are designed for people who continually are hamstrung. I mean, where this applies in the state of Illinois, you have to make an appointment now to go get your license, to go down there or to get a license plate. You can't just walk in and get a number. Oh no, now it's gone. Why? Because they're metering how much that you can, the services that you can get. Now apply this to
Wow.
every other type of service they've got across the board. This is why people like myself, why Diane Harris, why Sheriff Mendrick are out there. We're running for office to try to make a change and bring some common sense and to work together on the state level and the federal level. I would be working with these people so we can make this difference, because otherwise it's so out of hand. Illinois is hemorrhaging people every year. 50 we're leading the way and losing people. Okay, I can
Yeah.
put that in a positive sentence. We're one of the leaders of the country in losing people. We're one of the leaders of the country in losing jobs. One of the leaders of the country in crime. I mean, it's just, the statistics are amazing, and it's all related to these type of things, which are just, it's all fluff, and there's no
Yeah.
substance to it. There's no real industriousness to it. And on top of that, you take all of the gambling that they've added. Has that really improved the cities that they're in? No. All this created is a group of people who are, this. I'm not talking about like fantasy football either. I'm talking
Yeah.
about people who are disproportionately affected because they're on aid. They're not making a lot of money as it is, and it's been shown in study after study that those are the people who are affected the most. So I think that if that's our main industry in Illinois, or it's becoming one, then we need to take a look at this other things. It's one thing to have the industry. It's another thing to have no industry and just simply have those type of activities going on. And on top of that, you've got the NGOs just sucking away at the teat of the state.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if that's a bad word or not. I'm just saying it. That's
It's the
that's a
truth.
doctrinal term. That's a doctrinal term.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's the truth, though. And to your point, these are not the areas that you want to be leading the way in. You want your state to be recognized for bringing in new jobs, not exporting them, and or violent crime. It's pretty sad when there's more murders per capita in Chicago than there are in like Bogota, Colombia, Baghdad, Iraq, or wherever else. Like again, these are not the areas where you want to be number one. This isn't a new phenomenon. At least, some of it's accelerated a lot over the last few years, but it's been bad policies that have gone on for, in some cases, decades, that have put you there. Like I remember, 20 years ago, listening to Neil Bortz give out the award to Chicago for the most gun homicides, however many years in a row. And like at that time, it seemed ridiculous. And I know you guys got knocked off your spot a couple times by Detroit per capita or Washington, D.C. per capita one year. But being a consistent winner of the most violent homicides per capita per year is certainly not where you want to be. So something has to change. And that's something else that I've brought up with a few other people I've talked to that are running for office in Illinois is concealed carry and gun laws. I know that they are actually issuing some permits now. I'm not sure if the problem's really totally corrected, but they're still going after magazine bans. They have all kinds of ridiculous restrictions there. They don't honor out-of-state concealed carry permits. So every time I come to Chicago to visit, I've got to disarm myself. Which again is insane. What about the Second Amendment? Like I know you've been a strong supporter of that, but is there any hope of changing some of the policy there so people can fight back and they're not just perpetual victims of criminals?
Well, we've had a lot of debate about there in the state legislature. It's almost uniparty land here, and it's kind of looking bleak, as a matter of fact. I was just reading some articles, and I had somebody who was briefing us about that not too long ago. We're trying to reverse some of that trend, but it's going to take people taking back the state house. We need good candidates to take back the legislation so that they can't rubber stamp it, because they're coming up with policies. They basically, even in the state Supreme Court right now, there's a case being decided, and it's looking pretty bleak. Like it'll probably be 2-1, and they won't let us. They won't let us. The decisions is really lopsided against us. So there's not really a lot of hope coming until we can change the legislation, and if we can change the judges that are at that level which affect it. In the meantime, Illinois is going to continue to have weapons confiscations going on, and people are not going to be able to really fully utilize their Second Amendment rights. We have the Illinois State, Association, which is similar to the the NRA, only it's the Rifle Association for Illinois. But it's a small voice. It's not enough of a voice yet. And it takes everybody to wake up. All of our rights are God given. All of these things need to be protected. It's not a gift from the government that I should be able to protect myself and defend myself and my family. It's my right. And
Yes.
whenever they're trying to introduce that stuff, all it is a play for the government to have exercise more control. And this was what this has been. Our government, sadly, has been infiltrated by people. They can call them communists, they can call them socialists, but at the end of the day, it's just you can call them what they want because they're chameleons. What they're trying to do is undermine our right to bear arms and to defend ourselves. That's the most basic right. The most fundamental job of the government is to protect us, but also in America, this is not something given to us. This is our right. We should be able to defend ourselves, period, end of story.
Yeah, agreed. All these, perversions of our inalienable rights, they're incubated somewhere, and that somewhere is in our educational system. That's another major problem that leads to these ideas, these just inversions of reality, inversions of our rights that instead coddle and protect criminals, and once again, ignore or disarm the American people. But it all starts somewhere. That is our schools. And I know that you guys have had a massive problem with DEI and CRT, both at the grade school level, the high school level, and again at the college level. Now, is there any way to tackle that throughout the state? I know there's been a big push from the federal government to end these DEI and discrimination policies, and they're using entry barriers to entry from the colleges primarily to go after that. And then they're ending a lot of the Biden policies. Like, for example, if you wouldn't let boys in the girls' room and girls in the boys' room, they were using the school lunch program to hold schools hostage to make sure that, they could let perverts in the bathrooms. So what can you do at the state level to undo some of these DEI policies within your schools and the CRT that I know is still being utilized? And, but yeah, what is it that you guys can do to help undo and reverse some of that?
Well, I've actually been to a few events where they've had people who've been involved in the homeschool movement. So that's one option. The other issue is other way is where people get involved with their local school boards. And we got a great lady down in Batavia. Her name's Rose, and she's been really involved in that, especially up in this area. But think about it. People pay way high taxes, some of the highest taxes in the country just to live in some of these communities in the western burbs. And
Yeah.
their schools are basically they're indoctrinating their children. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And they're poisoning their children against this great country, and it's giving them a life that they can't even imagine. I mean, I've been overseas. I've been to Eastern Europe. I've seen places. People don't know how good they have it here in this country. Let me tell you. And to be
Yeah.
raising children to hate America or to feel like America is a terrible place. I mean, my gosh, they should just take the leaders of these people and send them to some of these third places that really where life is so tough, and really come back with an appreciation of what it's all about. What we can do is at the school level, at the local community elections, we've got to be involved. The school board is our basic level. And, after the election, in Illinois, the Republicans took a drubbing in local elections because people took the eye off the ball. So we really
Yeah.
need to get those people at the local level to vote in these local elections, whether it's for the cities or whether it's for the school boards, and really to make a difference. And also, if to step up to the plate. And if somebody came in and they're just acting out of sorts, then do a recall. I think they're planning on doing recalls at some of these places. People are not stepping up to the plate to do the job for the benefit of our children, of our communities, and they're working against it. We have that right. We have ways that we have a recourse, right? And so that's been something that I've noticed a lot of. And I'm not going to say a red wave, but I would definitely say an American wave is coming, because I
Yeah.
don't think it's just red. I think it's parents. I think it's people. We are one culture, one team, right? We say that a lot in the Army. One fight, one team.
Yes. Well, and I agree. I do think, as unfortunate as it was, the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk really did wake up a lot of people on a variety of issues. And I think it also gave a lot of people that have been thinking about this type of thing, seeing the problem right in front of them, but not having the courage to address it, that it gave them that boost they needed to be part of a positive movement that will change our country for the better. Another big problem that I've seen and I've heard you discuss before is the curriculum in our schools. You mentioned, ending the wokeness, getting rid of the DEI policy and all this other just nonsense indoctrination that they're learning from, in global warming to 187 genders or whatever we're up to now. But, I also feel like what we really need to do is get our schools back to teaching the fundamentals: reading, writing, arithmetic, critical thinking skills, and learning the actual fundamental values that our country was founded on, not this perversion from the 1619 Project, back to the founding fathers, the root that made our country, what they based our republic on, and getting people to understanding their civic responsibility, how a government actually works, how it serves you, instead of this the sick, twisted version that we have right now, where the elites kind of control everything, and then us, the peasants, we just operate under their will. And I think changing that starts with changing our education system.
An educated workforce, people who have critical thinking, people who understand what their rights are and their responsibilities. We have down to 1% or so people served in America and are serving in the military right now. We're the other 1%. Okay. You heard about that rich 1%? Well, at least in the past, that 1% had a noblesse oblige where they had to go out there and serve. Teddy Roosevelt didn't have to go out there and lead the charge at San Juan Hill, and the Roosevelt brothers who joined both Roosevelt's, the President Roosevelt, during World War II, his son served. Teddy Roosevelt's son served, so it's there's a book several years ago called AWOL, as about the America's elite have basically been absent in terms of being part of the leadership. Our elite universities were kicking out people, not having ROTC programs there, and so now we're seeing a reverse in that, and we need to continue that trend. Another thing is that people in the communities have a responsibility. They have a civic responsibility. And it seems like when people have been given something, freedom is not free. And people have forgotten about that. But if you don't step up for your freedom, and I'm saying, use the civic levers that are available, but we've got to get people involved, and people need to do their duty. They need to vote. They need to get out there find out what's happening around them, and not just simply sit there passively and accept it. You don't have to. You have rights, but you have responsibilities too. That means everybody should be involved.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, again, we need real leaders. We need people that understand this. And we need people to put skin in the game so they really understand what's at stake here. I want to kind of actually shift things up a little bit, because recently, just a few days ago, Tuesday, Pete Hegseth addressed the military, brought in 800 generals, or over 800 from around the world. And what we know about this was, part of this was get your act in gear. The military needs to be in shape. We need to get back into back into what they were designed to be. Get rid of all this woke ideology nonsense. And I'm sure some of these generals were worried about having to meet the fitness standards themselves. But I want to get your total takeaway on what we know about what was said and these core fundamental problems with our military right now.
Well, having worked with the military 20 years as a soldier, from enlisted to officer, and then retired and working at the European Command and Africa Command, both of those are COCOMs, combatant commands. And I've been a part of the Association United States Army for over 20 years, which is kind of a legislative advocacy group on behalf of veterans and soldiers and communities. I can tell you, things have changed a lot. And we do need to get people back to basics and back to focus on performance. It used to be, as an expression, when we're noting things are going wrong, it's process over performance, and it's got to be performance over process. We've got to be able to perform. War is a nasty thing. You can't soft sell it. You don't want to get bogged down into these things where, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's got to be something which would be quick, and you get in, you get out. Okay, but what they've turned into, these people with their ideas, because it infects the entire mindset, and then you end up in being bogged down in countries for 20 years, and you've got thousands and thousands of veterans who come back and need support from the VA. And then people talk about, oh, well, the soldiers, why are we spending so much money on our veterans and stuff? Well, if you have a war for 20 years, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Especially if you have less and less people. And also it comes down to our participation as a country. A lot of people I see every day on our playing fields, thousands of people. If you drive by high schools, you see people are out there. There's motivated students out there, but then we're seeing that they're not able to meet the standards. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the people who are trying to go out there are not meeting the standards. There's a lot of people out there, so we need to take a look at national service and get back to what makes a free country free. And I think that's part of what the secretary is talking about is the people that are going in, they need to be focused. And also too, last 10 years, well, at least between Obama and Biden, during that time, they're slamming people who were, believing faithful people and people who believed in patriotism, who went to serve the country because it was a tradition in the families. They're slamming the Southeast. The Southeast, where 70% of our veterans, our people who serve in the military come from that. They're putting them down, and whether you're denigrating their faith, whether you're denigrating their history, or their beliefs, and they've been slamming
Yeah.
them. And so, of course, we had a lot of people who didn't want to go back in because they were putting down the military, and they're adding all of these things on and chasing after projects which had nothing to do with the military. And
Sure.
there's no accountability too. There was no accountability after that Afghanistan pullout. And if there had been a different person in charge, I'm pretty sure that heads would have rolled
Oh yeah.
if Trump had been in office. Right?
Yeah. There would have been 6 months worth of hearings. We would have known every detail. We would have known what people had for breakfast that day.
Yeah.
I want to get into one last topic because we are getting close to out of time here. That's both important for you and your district and for the rest of the country, and that's farmers. Well, basically, the war on farmers. We've really seen this accelerate across certain countries in Europe, Canada, and others. This either overregulation and other policies that are killing off the family farm. From tax policy that because of the value of the land and everything else means they can't pass things on to future generations, that they just don't have the assets to cover the tax that's involved, but also food security as a national concern. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that before we wrap up.
Well, Illinois, one of our great exporters is our corn and our soybean and our people at the moment. So we'd like to keep the people. But we're happy to export the corn and the soybeans. But also, there's other things in the agricultural area that farmers here would like to be able to, for example, raise more cattle. But we had a company that's closed this last meat packing plant. It was down in Momence, Illinois, several months ago, and that had been open for 60 years. And They moved it up to Wisconsin. We've got so that's great. It's good for Wisconsin. They got those jobs back, but we're still buying millions of dollars worth of bratwurst, if you will, here in Chicago. So what we could do is to help the farmers is to make it so that they can have other things that they can use that land for, which would lower our food costs, as a matter of fact, because number one, it would be closer at hand, just period. And they could grow more of it instead of just over an abundance of corn, which we have too much of in some respects. So how those decisions are being made at the national level can affect us on the level here. And our farmers, people need to understand that without the American farmer, we would not be able to have the abundance that we've got, and the world would be starving as well. America produces so much, and we're very efficient at it. We're very good at it, and they're hardworking people. Now, so one could say, "Oh, you must be super rich because you have 100 acres or 500 acres or 1,000 acres, depends on it." But those people have to work that land all the time. It's a hard job, and they're not appreciated. I support them. I believe we gotta, food security is got to be at the top of our nation's list, because if we can't, and cost of living is tied to that. So we've got to broaden those out, make it easier for farmers to pass their land on. We got to make it easier for farmers to diversify into what they need. And we need to really take a look at some of these federalized programs, which have been bringing windmills and solar panels on our Midwestern farmland. And we ask ourselves, what's the effect here in 20, 30 years? What's the second and third term effects on our ability to raise our crops, to be able to feed our people, and to keep the costs down?
Yeah, well, agreed and well said. Um, this really is something, I don't think most people understand that most countries on earth are net importers of food. We're one of the few and one of the largest, I think the largest net exporter of food. Like, to your point, if it weren't for the United States, there would be starving around much more of the world than I think people would like to believe. We are almost out of time. Now, one problem I've heard brought up over and over, unfortunately, with candidates like yourself that are running in Illinois, is that right now it's really difficult to get volunteers. That, especially with younger people, a lot of them are kind of disheartened. They're upset with what's going on and what they've seen. But what is it that our audience can do to help your campaign? And are you in the same situation as everyone else I've talked to, where it's very difficult to bring in volunteers, whether it's door knockers, people to make phone calls, people to put signs together? Are you kind of seeing the same thing that other people are right now? And what can we do to reverse that trend? Because I feel like people are hungry for change right now. It's just in some areas they feel defeated because they don't feel like there's people out there really fighting like you are.
Well, I'll say one thing. This has been mostly self-financed. I've had a few people have given some donations, but my wife says, enjoy spending your Corvette money. I'd hope someday to have a Corvette, and I won't have that now. But I'm looking for people to build the organization, because it's all about bringing in people who are motivated. And the tragic death of Charlie Kirk has led to one thing, and just thousands of people are now aware of and trying to become involved with Turning Point USA. And I think that's a great start. And, there's other organizations out there. We have a Young Republicans, but working with those organizations and telling people if they want to be part of my organization. I call it the Mike movement, make Illinois known for excellence, right? So kind of a play on words. We would love to have people be part of our campaign. I think I resonate with younger people because they see that I'm offering a vision for a future. The Democrats are offering dependency. I'm offering dignity and success. Bring back the American dream. And I know a lot of people don't want to be living in their parents' basements after 25 or after 35 anymore, at least except for maybe people who are really, really hardcore gamers. But, they can reach me at my website. I've got a website out there, votepierceforcongress.com. That's one way they can reach me. I'm known as a candidate who's all over the district. There's 8 counties in the district, and I do have a Facebook. It's LTC RET Michael Pierce for Congress. So if somebody wants to give us money too, that's great too. They can always find information about that. But more than anything is, if we have people who care, who feel the same way that I do, who want to give back to our country, whether they're young people or people who are retired or other people and want to be involved in the community. This is a community movement. This is what grassroots is really all about. It's just some regular guy going out to prove, hey, I can serve and I can continue to serve.
Agreed. And guys, again, we talk about this all the time. It's important to put our money where our mouth is, support the people that are out there fighting the fight and going to accomplish the things that we want to see come to fruition here in the country. If we're ever going to get things back on track, you can't just be a keyboard warrior, whether that's putting your dollars behind somebody, even if it's just $5, $10, $15, $20. If enough people make a small contribution, it's enough to get candidates like Dr. Pierce here across the finish line. And that's what's important. We can talk about it all we want. We can have all kinds of conversations, but there is an action. It doesn't matter. And again, if you're in the state of Illinois or you live nearby and you want to come volunteer, go to, let me pull your website up here again, votepierce4congress.com. That's votepierce4congress.com. Go there, make a contribution. Or like I said, if you're in the area, volunteer. I'm sure you're going to need door knockers, people to help with phone calls, and a variety of other things if we want to be successful. Again, the left likes to get their money and their support from USAID and the State Department, their NGOs, George Soros, and the rest. It's up to us to do things. We don't have anybody to grift from government to get us across the finish line. It's going to be us. So that's the way we've got to look at it. This is a fight to save the soul of America, to restore things back to what we want, back to the way things were when when we were growing up, we were going to high school. We want to get back to a fair, sane, civil society that is creates opportunity for future Americans, where America is leading the way for the world, not just in the literal sense, but morally, ethically, and everything else. We need to get back to being that shiny city on a hill. Any words of wisdom you'd like to leave the audience with here before we wrap up?
Well, thanks very much, Mike. I just say that, I'm proud to serve America. I've served America, and I want to continue to do that. Selfless service is something that is learned over time. And I think that if I would just tell something to a younger person or even other people out there is, the more you serve others, the more you're going to get back. And I really believe that in this country, America is the greatest country in the world. I've been around, I've seen a lot of it, of the world. I can tell you, we have it so good here. We're so blessed. Let's keep pressing those blessings forward for the next generation. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well said. We'll stay in touch. We're going to keep track of your campaign. Probably bring you back here when it gets a little closer to your initial primary. But again, I want to stay in touch. We need to follow you and other candidates, especially that are behind enemy lines in blue states, that are helping to restore them. Make that shift to purple and then all the way into red. But again, thanks for joining me today. To our audience, thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And we'll be back tomorrow.